Brainwashing does not begin with fear or threats. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, with confusion. A person loses clarity long before they lose freedom. Brainwashing is real, and it happens all around us. This is not fiction. Step by step, people's minds are reshaped without them noticing, through methods, stages, and psychology designed to control them. Understanding this process is the first step to protecting yourself and those you care about. Brainwashing, also called mind control or thought reform, is one of the most intense forms of social influence. Unlike simple persuasion, it demands commitment, deep, consistent, from both the manipulator and the victim. Brainwashing is not a one-off trick. It is a process over time. It erodes your sense of self, reshapes your beliefs, and forces you to adopt the worldview of another. You've probably heard someone described as brainwashed. Maybe you've even used the term yourself when someone expressed opinions that felt out of character. But true brainwashing is far more insidious. It doesn't just change opinions. It attacks identity. It isolates the victim. It makes the manipulator the sole arbiter of truth. Manipulators often combine three methods: compliance, forcing action without changing belief; persuasion, targeting attitudes and emotions; propaganda, rewriting reality itself, convincing the victim that everything they believed was wrong, and only the manipulator holds the truth. The combination of all three is why brainwashing is so hard to recognize and even harder to reverse. Every brainwashing story begins quietly. It doesn't start with threats or violence. It starts with access. The manipulator identifies vulnerability, loneliness, confusion, grief. Then they offer guidance, friendship, or mentorship. At first, it seems harmless, a helping hand in a chaotic world. But this access is the first thread of control over time. Small favors, attention, and subtle emotional nudges cultivate dependency. The victim begins to trust and rely on the manipulator without even realizing it. This stage is delicate. If handled incorrectly, the manipulator risks losing the victim entirely. The key is subtlety and consistency. The danger here is clear. Once someone depends on another for guidance, validation, or even survival, they begin unknowingly to hand over their autonomy. With access established, the manipulator begins dismantling identity. Every person has a sense of self, a combination of beliefs, roles, and values. The first step in brainwashing is to shatter that self-perception. Repeated contradictions, criticism, doubt make the victim question their thoughts, memories, and morals. Compliments are rare. Disapproval is constant. Slowly, friends, family, and external support are isolated or vilified. The victim feels increasingly alone and disoriented. Imagine someone telling you every day that you are not the person you think you are. At first, it might feel like harmless criticism, but if this continues for weeks or months, you would begin questioning everything: your abilities, your relationships, even your own conscience. This is psychological erosion in action. Once identity is weakened, guilt becomes the primary weapon. The manipulator convinces the victim they are flawed, immoral, or sinful. Every thought, every choice is wrong. Confessions are encouraged. Mistakes are magnified. Guilt isn't just emotional, it's tactical. It creates a vacuum where the manipulator positions themselves as the sole source of redemption. The victim begins to believe that obedience and conformity are the only paths to relief. At this stage, resistance seems not only impossible, but unbearable. Brainwashing is all-consuming. The victim may begin denouncing their previous identity, their beliefs, even their loved ones. Loyalty shifts entirely to the manipulator. Friends, family, and prior communities are cut off, leaving the victim fully dependent on the brainwasher. This is isolation by design. the victim's worldview narrows, and any attempt to reconnect with former support systems feels wrong or dangerous. At this stage, intervention becomes extremely difficult. After breaking down identity and instilling guilt, the manipulator extends an olive branch, a kind word, a small gift, a gesture of affection, convinces the victim there is hope, if only they comply. This stage is psychological reinforcement. Victims feel indebted, eager to earn favor. Confessions, acts of compliance, adherence to the manipulator's ideology, all rewarded. The brainwasher channels guilt and offers the illusion of redemption, making the new belief system appear as salvation. With guilt and obedience established, the victim begins reconstructing their identity around the manipulator's worldview. Every old belief feels dangerous, every old habit shameful. Every new belief is rewarded and reinforced. This stage is marked by progress and harmony in the eyes of the manipulator. Victims cling to their new self because it's their only safe haven from the pain, confusion, and guilt of the past. The final step is acceptance and internalization. The brainwasher has succeeded. The victim is fully converted. Old identities are gone, and new ones dominate. The brainwashed may even participate in rituals or ceremonies, reinforcing their loyalty, further cementing the control. At this point, reversing the process is extraordinarily difficult. Professional intervention might help, but the psychological damage runs deep. Not everyone can be easily brainwashed. Vulnerability often comes from weak self-identity, lack of support, or socioeconomic disadvantage. Those who struggle with self-definition, lack supportive friends and family, or face extreme hardship are prime targets. Brainwashers prey on this weakness, offering guidance, community, and a sense of purpose. While slowly tightening control, even highly intelligent individuals can fall victim if their vulnerabilities are carefully exploited. Awareness is the first defense. Recognize when access is being used to manipulate, when guilt is weaponized, and when your sense of self is under attack. Other protective strategies include maintaining a strong support network, questioning media narratives and sensationalism, avoiding blind conformity and groupthink, trusting your intuition when something feels off, choosing timeless values over fleeting trends. Brainwashers rely on subtlety, repetition, and isolation. Staying alert, skeptical, and grounded in your identity is the best safeguard against manipulation. Brainwashing is not a mystery. It is a series of predictable psychological steps. First access, then breakdown, and finally, reconstruction. Anyone can be vulnerable under the right conditions. Awareness is the first safeguard. Knowledge of the process is the second. Autonomy is not lost suddenly. It fades gradually, often under the guise of guidance, until it feels natural to surrender control. Recognizing this process is critical for protecting yourself and others. If this breakdown helped you understand the mechanics of brainwashing, consider subscribing to Dark Honey. Your engagement shapes the topics we explore and helps create a space where these ideas can be discussed without distortion. Check the description for recommended books and resources on dark psychology, influence, and mind control. This is Dark Honey. Stay sharp, stay aware,